Hello, hello, hello. I am the Linux Mensch. In my last video, I showed how to install, configure, and use Nix OS. Now, Nix OS has two ways of doing an installation. One is the manual way in the TTY, and this other way is using the Calamares installer. So in my last video, I used the Calamares installer and I installed the GNOME desktop environment. And then after the fact, I installed the awesome window manager, Qtile, and some of my favorite apps. And today I'm going to go through a manual install in the TTY, and it's going to be a minimal install. Now it's not going to be bare minimal, but there's going to be no desktop environment. I'm just going to install the awesome window manager and a few of my favorite apps. So let's get to it. So right now I'm in Arch Linux in the awesome window manager. And I'm going to go to my web browser on Workspace 5. I already have the Nix website open up, and I'm going to click on download. I'm not going to spend as much time on the website as I did in my last video on Nix OS. So I'm going to scan down. So in my last video, I downloaded this ISO right here. Okay, and this ISO was 2.4 gigabytes. And when you boot onto it, you boot on to a live environment of the GNOME desktop environment. And I installed GNOME and all its apps. And then afterwards, I installed all my favorite apps from my GitLab repository. And like I said, I installed Qtile, the awesome window manager, and so forth. Today, I'm going to download, well, I already downloaded it. So what I downloaded was this minimal ISO, and this one right here, the one for Intel AMD. Now this ISO will not take you into a live environment with a desktop environment that you can play with and experiment with to see if you like it. This ISO is going to take you into the TTY just like it does when you log on to an Arch Linux ISO. And as a matter of fact, this ISO is the same size. So this ISO is 1.2 gigabytes to download, and so is the Arch Linux ISO. How about that, eh? Sorry. So anyways, like I said, I downloaded this. It's already downloaded, and I've already booted up to it in a virtual machine. So I'm going to close my web browser. I don't need to be in there. I'm going to go to Workspace 8, where I have my virtual machine, and I'm going to make it full screen. So this is what it looks like when you boot onto the minimal ISO in the TTY. Looks very similar to booting up onto an Arch Linux ISO. So the first thing I'm going to do is make the font larger so you can see it. And it's the same command that you would do in Arch Linux. It's set font tier -132B. How about that, eh? Sorry. And I'm going to clear the screen. And first thing I'm going to do is ping google.com. Make sure I have internet, and I do. Now I'm going to do Control-C to close that, and I'm going to clear the screen. Now I'm going to type in this command, sudo -I, and that's going to take me into root, and I'm going to clear the screen. I'm going to just do an lsblk, and you can see I made this virtual machine. I gave it a 50 gig hard drive, and it's VDA. So I'm going to type in cf disk, and I'm going to use my arrows to go to DOS. I'm going to hit DOS, because this is the way I make my partitions when I'm doing an Arch Linux install. So I'm going to do this exactly the same way. This part only, okay? So I'm going to click on enter, and I'm going to leave it at 50 gig. I'm going to click on primary. I'm going to use my arrows to go to bootable, and I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to make it bootable. Then I'm going to use my arrows to go over to write, and I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to type in the word yes. And then I'm going to use my arrows to go over to quit. I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm going to clear the screen. So I'm going to lsblk. And we can see my 50 gig partition, or my 50 gig hard drive, is 50 gig, and it's VDA1. So I'm going to make a file system mkfs ext4 dev VDA1. And we're making a file system, just the way I do it in Arch Linux. And I'm going to clear the screen. Now I'm going to mount onto it, mount dev VDA1 space /mnt. Now we're mounted onto it, and let's make sure we are. Let's clear the screen. Let's do an lsblk, and we can see VDA1 is now on /mount. Now I'm going to generate a default basic configuration file for Nix OS. I'm just going to type in Nix OS -generate -config space --root /mnt, and hopefully I typed it right, and I did. Now I'm going to vim into it. Now, this is interesting. On the other ISO, that installed the GNOME desktop environment through the Calamares installer, Vim wasn't installed by default. There was no Vim, only Nano, and I had to use dirty Nano. But on this ISO, there's Vim and Nano. So if you want to use Nano, you can, but I'm going to use Vim. So now we're going to Vim or Nano into /mnt/etc/Nix OS /config, and let's just tab it, and let's get in. Now, if you land here, if you have already made a mistake and you didn't do it right, and you land here, there won't be a whole page worth of information. There might be 1 or 2 lines, and the rest of the page will be empty. And if that happens, you made a mistake. And I know that for a fact because I already did it a couple of times when I was playing with the system and learning how to use the system. So now I'm going to set my numbers. You don't have to do that. This is optional. I'm going to set NU. If we go to the bottom, you can see there's 124 lines. So like I said, if you don't have all these lines and there's only 2 lines at the top and the rest is empty, you made a mistake and you have to go back and start over again. Let's go back to the top. So I'm going to scan down. So the first thing I'm going to do is, of course, all these lines that have the number sign in front of them or the hashtag, they are deactivated. So I'm going to activate some lines in this configuration file, and I'm going to type some new lines into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is on line 19, I'm going to activate the line. So I'm going to delete the hashtag or the number sign, and then I'm going to scoot over to dev-sda because my virtual machine is VDA, V as in Victor, right? So I'm going to delete that S, and I'm going to put a V in there for VDA. I've activated the line, and I changed SDA to VDA. Now I'm going to scan down, and on line 24, I'm going to activate the line. So I'm going to delete the number sign or the hashtag, and I'm activating Network Manager, because without Network Manager, you won't have internet when you boot into your new system, right? And I'm just going to delete this part here. You don't have to delete it. You can leave it in there. I'm just deleting it to make it a little cleaner. I'm just going to delete that. Okay, you don't have to do that. That's optional. Now we're going to scan down, and I'm going to go to the beginning of line 27. I'm going to delete the number sign of the hashtag to activate the line. And then I'm going to change Europe/Amsterdam. Remember, there's a / there. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to change it to America / Eastern. Now notice that America, the first letter, the A is capitalized, and Eastern, the first letter, the E is capitalized, and there's no spaces. Now I'm going to scan down to line 34. And I don't have to do this because I'm in Canada, and English US UTF-8 will work. But when I'm in Arch Linux, I always change this. When I'm doing well, regardless of whether I'm using the Arch Linux automated installer or I'm doing a manual install in Arch Linux, I always make it CA. It's optional. You don't have to do that. So I'm going to do a capital CA. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the beginning of the line. I'm going to delete the number sign or the hashtag to activate the line. And then I'm going to activate line 37, key map US. Now I'm going to go down and I'm going to activate line 42. Okay. And now I'm going to add some lines in here. What I'm going to do is actually I'm going to copy this, paste it in, and then I'm going to add some stuff in here. I'm going to type in display manager, period, light DM, period. Now notice that the word display manager is one word, and notice that the D in display manager is a small caps, but the M for manager is capitalized. Now why it has to be like that, I have no idea. You have to type it in that way, okay? So now I'm going to copy this line again, and I'm going to paste it in, and I'm going to delete display manager and type in window manager. And I'm going to delete light DM and type in awesome for the awesome window manager. And again, notice that window manager is one word. W in window manager is a small letter. It's not capitalized, but the M for manager is capitalized. So you have to make sure you type it in right. Now I'm just going to leave some more space, and I'm going to type in hashtag. I'm going to capitalize. I'm going to leave a space USB, and I'm going to take my caps off. I'm going to type in this command: services, period, udisks2, period, enable equals true, semicolon. Of course, you have to make sure you spell all these things right, or you won't be able to build your system. And I'm going to type this in again: services, GVFS, period, enable equals true, semicolon. And the reason why I'm typing these commands in is that I'm going to install PCManFM, the file manager, and Nemo, the file manager. So when you go into your file manager, if you plug in a USB drive, it won't show up. But if you have these commands in there and you plug in your USB drive, it'll automatically be mounted and it will show up in the file manager. Line 52, I'm going to activate and I'm going to scan down. Line 61, I'm going to delete the hashtag or the number sign to activate it. Line 62, I'm going to activate that. On line 64, I'm going to take out the hashtag. That's going to enable Pipewire to work for my audio. Now I'm going to scan down. Line 70. Now your numbers might be off from mine because the numbers are changing because I'm adding spaces and lines in here. So the numbers might be off if you're trying to follow me. So now I'm going to do line 70. I'm going to delete that number sign of the hashtag for users. And then I'm going to scan over and I'm going to delete Alice. I'm going to add Mitch. And then I'm going to go back to the beginning. Line 71, I'm going to activate that line. Line 72, I'm going to activate that line. That's going to put Mensch in the user group. And actually, I'm going to delete all these lines, okay? Just like that. And then I'm going to scan down and I'm going to delete this line here to install and activate Firefox. And on line 83, I'm going to delete this line. And actually, you know what? I'm going to delete all of line 83 because I don't need, the line 83 is for Vim. I'm going to install Vim on our system, on our new system. I don't need this line telling you, do not forget to add an editor to edit configuration on Nix. The Nano editor is also installed by default. You can leave it there, but I like it to be clean. It just makes it look cluttered, right? So let's just do this and let's delete that. Okay, now I'm going to take out this hashtag on line 82 and I'm going to make some space here because I'm going to add some apps. And you know what? I'm going to put them in alphabetical order. You don't really have to do that, but so I'm going to delete and type in fast fetch calculator. It's not going to be a bare minimal install, but it's going to be a light install. Calculator, Git, HTOP, Kitty, Libre Wolf, the Heart and Fork of Firefox, LX, Appearance, Eteria, Theme, the file manager Nemo. I'm going to put two file managers in here, Nemo and PCManFM, and TFS 3G. I'm going to do OnlyOffice. Now, OnlyOffice is not to be confused with OpenOffice. Now, most Linux people know about LibreOffice. I don't use LibreOffice anymore. I used to use it, but now I'm using OnlyOffice. But OnlyOffice is not the same as OpenOffice because a lot of people get that confused. So OnlyOffice, desktop, editors, Papyrus, icon, theme, PCManFM, file manager, udisks, and I made a mistake. Whoops. Trying to keep this in alphabetical order. Udisk, udisks, let's keep it neat. USB, utils, vim, wget, xorg, xinit, xorg, xrdb. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Xorg, xset, zesh, and zesh syntax highlighting. And now I'm just gonna clean that up a bit there. So hopefully I didn't make any spelling mistakes, because if I made some spelling mistakes, my package won't build. Okay, so I'm going to save the file and I'm going to clear the screen. So now I'm going to type in Nix OS -install. And this is going to take about 3 minutes to install if I didn't make any mistakes. So if I made a spelling mistake or a typing mistakes in one of those words, or if I made a mistake in the syntax where I deleted too many semicolons or brackets, or I forgot to enter a semicolon or a bracket where it needs to be, any kind of syntax error or spelling error, and of course I made a mistake. I guess it's good that this happened. This is what happens when you make a mistake. I have a syntax error. So let's go back into the configuration. Okay, so I paused the video. I was looking for the error I made because I don't want the video to be too long. So I'm going to go back into config, and this is where I made the error. At the end of my packages, I forgot to take out this hashtag, right? So let's just put set numbers and there. Here it's 108, but yours might be different if you don't add all these apps in there and all the spaces that I put in the configuration, that won't be there. So like I said, you're going to have to look for the errors. Sometimes the errors are these syntaxes and sometimes they're spelling errors. Okay, so let's just get out of there and let's try this again. Let's clear the screen. Let's do Nix OS -install. You have to spell everything right. And let's see if it builds now. Now maybe there's another error in there. That's the problem. Now, sometimes the error message is a little bit more clear and it's easier to find the error. And sometimes it takes a while to find the error. Oh, now there's another error. Line 101. Okay, I know what my errors are. Okay, so let's go back in. Oops. Let's go back into my configuration. And I made errors again. See, these shouldn't be dashes. They have to be periods. You believe that? Because in Arch Linux, they're dashes. They have to be periods. Okay, let's get out of there. Let's clear the screen and let's do another install. Let's see if we can get through this. I wasn't expecting to be making all these mistakes, although I had the same problem in my practice runs. Oh boy, and I spelled highlighting wrong. You can see, right? Well, my mouse won't work because I'm in a TTY. You can see error, undefined variable, zesh syntax, heightling. And you can see a little arrow under, see on line 105, it shows the little arrow pointing up, and that's not really called an arrow. There's a name for that. I don't know what the name is, but there's my error. So let's go back and right here, zesh. Oh boy. I did several practice runs off camera and I kept running into this problem where I'm making mistakes. Highlighting. Got to spell everything right. And like I said, sometimes the problems are with your syntax, your brackets, and your semicolons. Let's just clear the screen and let's try another install. And one of the good things about it is that if you make an error, the error is going to show up really fast. Like you're not going to go through a whole install and then find out that you made an error. So if you make an error, the thing won't build and the error is going to show up pretty quickly. There goes, it's building. Okay, all the errors are fixed. So this build is going to take about 3 minutes. I'm going to pause the video and come back, so don't go away. Okay, so I didn't time it. It took maybe about 3 minutes. I timed it in my practice runs, and in my practice runs, it took about 3 to 3.5 minutes. This time I didn't time it, but I didn't get off my chair. Okay, so now we're at the part where we have to put the root password in. And at this part, do not try to clear the screen like Control L to clear the screen, because I did that in my practice run off camera and it messed up my install and I didn't know how to fix it. There probably is a way to fix it. So I'm going to put my password in, my root password. Oops, I'm on the wrong monitor. I'm going to put my root password in, hit enter, retype it, hit enter, and now I'm going to enter a password for Mensch. I'm going to type in Nix OS, to type it right. Enter, dash, leave a space, dash, root, leave another space, /mnt, leave another space, -c, and I'm going to type in password without the O and without the R, passwd, okay? Leave a space, Mensch, and put a quote in there. I hope I typed it right. If I did, it's going to ask me to give Mensch a password. And there it is, I typed it right. So I'm going to give Mensch a password. I'm going to retype my password and it's done. I'm going to type in reboot. And if I didn't mess it up, it's going to take me to LightDM, the display manager. Make this full screen because it is a virtual machine. And there we are. We are at LightDM, the login manager or the display manager. So if we click on here, so we can see I don't have any desktop installed and I only have one window manager. I have the awesome window manager. Now, why is it called none plus awesome? I have no idea. I have the awesome window manager installed. I didn't install Qtile or any desktop environment. Okay, so now I'm going to put my password in and we're going to log into default awesome. So this is the awesome window manager by default without my configuration file. And because it's a virtual machine, if I do, I got to fix the resolution. So if I do a super key enter, it's going to open up, So it's going to open up Xterm. And this is Xterm without my configuration file. So if you've been following my channel, you know that, let me shut that. Sorry about that. So super key, shift, super key, or shift Windows key, C is going to shut it. So if you've been following my channel, you know that Xterm is my favorite terminal emulator. And my Xterm with my configuration file always has a black background with nice large print. And actually, I'm going to go back in there for a second, and I'm going to make this a little larger. Sorry about the bright white. I just want to check something. So let's do xrender S 1360 by 768. Okay, so we fixed the resolution. Let's just do an HTOP. In this virtual machine, I gave it 4 processors, 4 gigs of RAM, and no swap, because I never use swap. And look at this, we're running at 241 megabytes of RAM. Not bad, eh? So I'm going to do, let's quit out of there, and let's shift, mod key C is going to close that. I installed Kitty, and I don't ever use Kitty, but I installed Kitty because in this install, I didn't automatically install my configuration file for Xterm. So I knew Xterm was going to be bright white with small font, blinding white. So I installed Kitty. So we see it was running at 241 megabytes of RAM. Let's open up Kitty. So it'd be super key P to bring up the run launcher, and we're going to type in Kitty. Let's open up Kitty, and let's just make that a little larger. Let's type in HTOP here, and let's see if it's the same. See, now this is why. So now we're running at 292 megabytes of RAM. This is the reason why I like to use Xterm, because I find Kitty and Alacrity. A lot of people love Alacrity. I find Kitty and Alacrity are heavy on RAM. Now, I mean, they're not like super heavy. Not going to use tons of RAM. I just find they're heavier, and I find Xterm is light. Now, a lot of people don't like Xterm because of the bright white background as the default, and because they think it's hard to configure. But I have videos that I made about showing how to configure Xterm, and my configuration file that you can download from a GitLab repository in Xterm has a black background with nice larger font. Anyway, so we're running at 292 using Kitty. Now let's close that again. I just want to do this experiment. So shift, well, actually, we don't even have to do shift. We could just use our mouse because this is the awesome window manager. Let's close that. And let's do Windows key enter. Let's make that a larger. Let's do HTOP again. Let's just see. Look at that. Oh, look at this. Now we're running at 228 megabytes of RAM. So Kitty is using about 70 megabytes of RAM more than Xterm. So what do you say about that, eh? This is why I like Xterm. But like I said, the reason why I installed Kitty, because I knew that this was going to be bright white, blinding white background, and I don't have my other configuration files in yet. So what I'm going to do is hit the Windows key P, and I'm going to type in LX. And I'm going to see where it says here, custom look and feel. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to do Materia Dark. I'm going to do icon theme. I'm going to do Breeze Dark. And I'm going to click on the apply button, and then I'm going to go here and close it. So now, as you can see, because we're in the default configuration file, this menu is empty, but we could do super key P and type in PCManFM. There's our file manager. Okay, let's close that. And we could do super key P and type in Nemo. That's the other file manager. There's Nemo. And you can use your keyboard to close it or just your mouse if you want, because this is the awesome window manager. And we could do a mod key P, and let's type in LibreWolf, a hardened fork of Firefox. And the reason why I installed LibreWolf, I already mentioned in my last video, is because in the repo, the Nix OS repo, I couldn't find uBlock Origin. And with Firefox, in my last video, when I tried to install, well, I didn't do it on camera, but earlier this week, I tried to install uBlock Origin from going through Firefox to the add-on webpage, and it installed, but it wasn't working. So LibreWolf comes automatically installed with uBlock Origin, and you can see right here, and it's working. That's why I installed LibreWolf. And let's close this. Well, you know what? Let's see if we have audio. I'm going to do, let's open up mod key P. Let's open up LibreWolf again, and let's close this, and let's type in distro. Let's go to the DistroTube website, and let's just change this to be appearance. Let's change that to dark theme. Oh, that is so hard on the eyes. That's better. So what I'm going to do is turn off my mic, and I'm going to turn on my audio and see if we have audio and video. Let's click it on.
Having the terminal immediately close after running the command. That's usually not what you want. You want the terminal to open, you want it to run the command, and you want it to stay open so you can see the output of the command. Let me switch over to my desktop and let me show you this.
So we can see the internet's working. We have video and we have audio. Now, do we have only Office? Let's do mod key P. Let's see if Only Office work opens up. There it is there. And there's Only Office. We have documents. So it's not a bare minimal install. We have a Word document. Let's close that. Let's open up a spreadsheet. So there is our spreadsheet program. Let's close that. So it's not a bare minimal install, but hey, it's an install. So now I'm going to open up Kitty, mod key P, and I'm just going to open up Kitty because I don't want to blind you anymore. Let's do git clone https://gitlab.com/artibus1/mench.git. And let's ls it. Oops, I did that wrong. So let's cd into mench. Let's ls it. And let's cd into the Nix OS folder. Okay, so let's cd into, and let's ls it. And let's cd into this manual install folder. Ls it. Let's clear the screen. Now let's ls it. And what am I going to do? I'm going to vim into run config. And this is what's in there. Just a few files. Let's do set nu. So line 4 is going to copy a few files. I already showed this in my last video. So I made a few changes because this is from my manual install. And in this install, we didn't install the GNOME desktop environment or Qtile. We didn't install as many apps as I did in my other install. So I changed things around. I took a few things out. Let's put it that way. So line 4 is going to install some files. Line 6 is going to install my awesome Window Manager configuration file. Line 9 is going to put Zesh into the root directory. And line 11 is going to install a configuration of Nix OS that has a few more things in it than the one we just manually installed. Okay, so I'm going to quit out of there. I'm going to do /run. Oh, it's asking for my password. So I put my password in and it's done. Now, of course, I said this in my last video. It looks like nothing happened, but something did happen and it's working. Okay, so I'm going to cd out of there. I'm going to clear the screen. So now we copied over a configuration file that has a few different things in it. So we have to rebuild it. So whenever you change the configuration file, whether you're copying it from the mench directory or you're deleting an app or adding an app or any change that you make to your configuration file, you always have to rebuild it. We're going to type in this command. Whoops, I'm not on the right monitor. Let's do sudo nixos -rebuild, leave a space, switch. And let's hit enter. And hopefully there was no mistakes in my configuration file that I copied over from my mench directory. And if there wasn't, it should rebuild it. And it might take a minute or two to rebuild it. So we can see it's rebuilding the system. It's like I said, the configuration file we copied from my mench directory has some changes in it. Wow, and that's it. It only took about 30 seconds. So let's close the terminal. And you know what? Let's close this. Let's just log out and let's log back in. And now we're in the awesome Window Manager with my configuration file. As you can see, it's much larger font. You can actually see the date is nice and clear. I have temperature in here is 17 Celsius. And if we right click the menu now, it has stuff in it. We have calculator. Let's just do that. I already showed this in my last video. Right click it again. We have Firefox, but I'm not going to bother opening it. I have HTOP. So now we're running at 229 megabytes of RAM. Not bad, eh? And at the bottom here, we have my Xterm. So that's the way my Xterm looks. A lot nicer than the default. And here, of course, we have LibreWolf. We have Nemo. We have PCman FM. We have Only Office. That's bright, eh? Documents. We can close our documents. We have spreadsheets. Close that. I have a thumb drive. Let's see if it's going to read it. And let's open up Nemo. Here's my thumb drive. Let's click it on. Oh, I have a fast fetch video on there. I didn't even know that was on there. Okay, so we can click it off. Let's dismount from it. And now I can pull it out. So now I'm going to open up a terminal, which should be super key enter. Is going to open up Xterm. And if you're using my Zesh configuration file, there's an easy way to get into the configuration file. I'm just going to do a Nix config, and I'm going to hit enter. I put my password in. It takes you right into the configuration file. Now, this is only going to work if you're using my Zesh configuration file. Let's go down. Of course, if you're using my configuration files, you might have to change. Let's do set NU. You might have to change line 27. You might want to change line 34. If you see line 47 to 49, that's what enabled my file managers to automatically mount and read my USB thumb drives. Line 53 to 55 enables Zesh to be my default shell. So if you don't want Zesh to be your default shell, you're going to have to comment this line out or delete it. Probably better just to comment it out. And if you comment this line out, Bash will become the default shell. You might want to change line 59 if you're not in the United States, you're not using a United States keyboard. And you might not want some of these packages. So if you don't want some of these packages, all you have to do is delete the line or comment it out. But if you comment out one of these packages or you delete the line, then you're going to have to rebuild the system. And the same thing as far as adding a package in. If you add another package in, you're going to have to rebuild the system. And I gave a more detailed look at the configuration file in my last video. And I'm going to close that and get out of there. And I'm going to clear the screen. So if you make a change to the configuration file, you have to rebuild the system. And you could either do this, sudo Nix OS -rebuild switch. So every time you make a change to a configuration file, you're going to do that. And you only have to reboot if the kernel is changed or updated. If you're using my Zesh configuration file, you could just type in build Nix, and then it's going to ask for your password. You're going to put your password in, and it's going to rebuild your system. Now, if you want to update the system, you're going to type in this command, sudo Nix OS -rebuild switch leave a space --upgrade. So if you type in this command, it's going to update your system. It's going to update everything in the system. And I know it works because I tried it, because I've gone through quite a few installs teaching myself how to use this, because before Wednesday, I never tried Nix OS, never used it, never tried it or anything. And I've been playing with it since Wednesday, and I already made one video on it using the Calamares installer. Well, that was my last video. So I went through an install off camera on Wednesday night, and today, which is Sunday, I ran this command in that build off camera. I ran this command and it updated the system, and as a matter of fact, Firefox got updated. They checked it to make sure. So if you run this command, it's going to update whatever needs to be updated, Firefox, your apps, the kernel, whatever, and then you only have to reboot if the kernel was updated. And I don't have an alias in my Zesh for this, but I'm going to put it in. And I'm going to upload it to my GitLab repository. And you know what I'm going to call it? Well, it's not there yet, but by the time you watch this video, it will be there. So I'm going to make an alias. I'm going to call it Nix update. Okay, so you don't have to remember that whole command. I'm going to put that into my Zesh configuration file. I'm going to upload it to my GitLab repository. And if you want, you can download it and use it. And that's it. In this video, I showed you what ISO to download if you want to do a manual install of Nix OS, and I walked you through a manual install. I showed you how to do it. And then I showed you how to download my GitLab repository and how to add some of my configurations to it. So I think that Nix OS is a fantastic distribution. I'm really liking it. And as a matter of fact, I like this manual install more than the Calamares install that I did in my last video. I think it installed a lot faster. It reminds me of installing Arch Linux the manual way, but as a matter of fact, I think it's easier than installing Arch Linux the manual way. And I think it's better than the install I did in my last video, where I used the ISO that used the Calamares installer. The ISO was a lot heavier. The install was a lot heavier. The install was a lot more bloated. So I like this install better. It's more minimal and it's still usable. So I really like it. I'm enjoying Nix OS. I think it's going to be the new Arch, by the way, and I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I am the Linux Mensch.